which had the effect dramatic turnout in urban areas. Most of the people who went to the polling stations discovered that their names were not there in their traditional polling stations. They deliberately suppressed the urban vote, deliberately skewed the election in favor of ZANU-PF. In the lead up to the election, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission also broke the law by not providing the voters roll. Law enforcement consistently weaponized Maintenance and Order Act against the opposition to deny our members, to deny our party the freedom to assembly. The majority of our meetings, particularly in the countryside, were stopped, interfered with, even if we had given a clearance by the police in line with the laws of our country. After the election day, there were serious challenges. Thousands of our volunteers and supporters have risked violence and gone extraordinary strength and personal expense to collect and return original copies of the V11s across the country, each of them willing to pay the price for the safety of making sure that we have our own parallel voter tabulation which reflects the will of the people. We know that hundreds and thousands could not make it because of these barriers that we've articulated. What do we do to resolve this crisis? That is the biggest question, fellow Zimbabweans. It is clear, it is non-negotiable that we cannot settle for any leader in Zimbabwe who lacks the true democratic will of the Zimbabwean people. A leader must be born out of a legitimate electoral process, because that is what democracy and election is all about. Any of manipulation that I've just articulated. A true democratic mandate can only be derived from freely expressing Zimbabweans through the power of the ballot. And therefore, any president that can give Zimbabwe an exit out of the vicious cycles of disputed elections that have been dominating our body politic since 1980. Fellow Zimbabweans, every Zimbabwean, no matter whom they support, has an absolute and sacred and sovereign right to know that the government which taxes them, the government which polices them, which commands their military and manages the affairs of their state, is chosen freely, equally by all Zimbabwean people. In the current political crisis, the only way this sacred right can be fulfilled, the only way we can resolve the current predicament that we're facing as a people, the Citizens Coalition for Change, as led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa, has assessed the situation and has made this following clear and emphatic demand: that to exit and restore democracy and legitimacy in our country, we are going to settle for less, none other than a free, fair, credible, and a proper election in our country. Now, the biggest question that faces Zimbabwean society right now is how do we achieve this desired end? How do we, to put it differently, restore legitimacy in our country? Our answer to all Zimbabweans and Africans at large, the solution lies in calling upon our African brothers and us to facilitate, to mediate, to scaffold, and more importantly, to guarantee a process that will lead our return to legitimacy in the shortest period by Sadc, by the African Union, that guarantees Zimbabwe to have a free, fair, and credible election. So this election that we're just coming from was a flawed process in its entirety for avoidance of doubt. And the solution, to put it very clear, is to have a fresh, free, fair, and credible election. Thank you very much.
Does it mean that you are abandoning the agenda of putting ZAC on the line, demanding a recount of the election of the votes. There's also been talk of you taking ZEC to the courts.
The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission failed in the following respect. Number one, it failed the credibility test. Number two, it failed the transparency test. Number three, it failed the professional test. And therefore, ZEC failed its fidelity to the Zimbabwean constitution, and ZEC must be disbanded. And a credible player, a professional player, scaffolded by regional and international players, is the only way to have a free, fair, and credible election in this country.
Does it mean you are no longer engaging ZEC going forward?
ZEC has failed this mandate. Zimbabweans understand that. That decision, that call does not come only from CCC. ZEC was caught in flagrante delicto, undermining its responsibility and its fidelity from the constitution. Zimbabweans across the political divide have this particular consensus, have the conversation with members of the church, talk to the clergy, have conversation with members of the civil society, whose facilitation of having a parallel voter tabulation, despite the commitment by ZEC that their office is being raided. So that is a sign that Zimbabweans across walks of life have this consensus at this particular moment. Go and talk to other political parties, and that's why we've said we have to make sure that as Zimbabweans, not just CCC, but as Zimbabweans, we must make sure that a new and fresh process can give a mandate. Because for the past years, Zimbabwe has been moving with a social and economic crisis that is delving our country because of the contested leadership.
What happens to CCC MPs like yourself who were elected? Are you not going to accept the results as well, or this is only applying for the presidential race?
We have made it very clear that the entire election in this country was. They will always refuse. They have their party, and I'm sure you have access to that party. I don't speak on behalf of ZANU-PF. I speak on behalf of the dejected masses of our people, the oppressed. That is what CCC represents. We are not worried about the interests of other players. We are worried about the interests of Zimbabwean people, the ordinary people whose will was stolen in this particular election. Yes,
you have 7 days to challenge in court. Are you going to take any challenge to court?
Are you going to court?
That we said we need a new, fresh, and proper election in this country, whose process is scaffolded by Sadc, by the African Union, and all the interested parties in the democracy of our country. Yes, country. We need to make sure that we engage with our friends and brothers in the region. Zimbabwe is a burden to South Africa. Zimbabwe is a burden to different countries in the world. What we must do is to sit down as Zimbabweans, make sure that we resolve our domestic problem, but we have to have our friends. Sadc is mandated, and I'm sure you understand that its creation and its responsibility is helping Zimbabweans, helping member states to resolve such political crisis, because we have to have a sustainable solution to the trouble that is bedeviling our country.
Mrs. Ziva, are you going to court? We have seen circulation of people circulating, attempting like want to go to the court to challenge the presidential vote. In very clear terms, are you going to court to challenge the presidential vote, or you are abandoning that route? Yes
thank
or no?
you very much. CCC is very clear in terms of its resolution. The resolution of the Citizens Coalition for Change, led by Vanessa and Chamis, is that the election in Zimbabwe was flawed, and the election must be the only route to resolve the crisis in this country. How do we go there to restore legitimacy in our country? We must make sure that a new, fresh, and a credible election is brought in, and it must be scaffolded by Sadc, guaranteed by Sadc and the African Union and other critical players, because it takes two to tango. ZANU-PF cannot run this country alone. It takes two to tango. We must make sure that we bring every Zimbabwe. And our process, my brother, so that we don't put the cart before the horse, it will include a lot of to see us engaging with regional and international players. I'm sure you are conscious that Sadc has deployed a team here in Zimbabwe, and we're going to be engaging with different players so that we resolve the crisis of legitimacy. And that crisis is born out of a stolen election. And the solution in this country lies nowhere.
That you are going to engage Sadc, which is already congratulating President Emerson Mnangagwa for his victory.
Thank you very much. I'm not so sure if you understand geopolitics and the influence of certain parties in the regional body, because it is very clear, my brother Blessing, a congratulatory message, a WhatsApp message, or a Twitter message does not define domestic and international politics. Domestic and international politics is defined by an election, is defined by the constitution of our country, is defined by rules and regulations that govern SADC. And it is those rules and regulations by SADC and us as member states that compel us to have those particular conversations with different players in the region. The members of the 40 states...
One more.
Thank you. We have done one more from SFAT and we are done. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're speaking for yourself. You were elected and declared a member of parliament in this election. Do you accept that declaration? Are you going to accept being a member of parliament?
Thank you very much. I'm sure you understand that I'm not here to speak on my own behalf. I speak on behalf of the Citizens Coalition for Change and the dejected masses of our people, millions that voted for the alternative and that expect change, and their will was bastardized, and those Zimbabweans want a free, fair and fresh election whose solution is going to guarantee a long and lasting solution to the crisis that we get in our country. We want that to happen in the shortest period of time. Thank you very much.
Are you privy to why Kikwete is around? Kikwete is in the country. Are you privy as to why he's disbanded?
Thank you. Yes.